So now you're just gonna break your lug nuts loose. You're gonna have to remove your caliper, which the bolts are on the back side right here. You got two 15s, 15 millimeters. Pull those out. Then you just pull your caliper off, set it over here to the side. You're gonna have to remove your cotter pin here now with either a pair of pliers, needle nose, whatever you like. I prefer using a pair of dikes because you can bend everything pretty decent with them. Pull that out. Then you're gonna need a 27 millimeter socket to break your axle nut loose. And then you're just gonna take and pull your hub off. You're gonna have two washers fall out right there. Make sure you don't lose those. And there's your hub. We're over here at the press now. We're gonna press these studs out. And if you don't have a press, you can use a hammer, you know, a socket and some stuff, and you can make it all work. We prefer using a press. What you're gonna wanna take is your lug nut, and you're gonna run it about halfway down your stud there. Take it like that. And you're gonna and there it's out. You end up with your wheel stud. You're gonna do that on the rest of them. You run your You're gonna do the same thing again. Make sure you're running about halfway down. That way you don't mess up the threads or the end of your studs. And there's your fourth one out. We have here our Hess Motorsports wheel studs, which we prefer changing out if you're really hard on your equipment. If not, you can run the stock studs, which on your right is your stock one, and the two left ones are your Hess Motorsports studs, which you can run your stock one if you like. We prefer, you know, to run the Hess Motor ones. They're more of a stouter material, which we have a 8047 in the middle, and we have a 300M on the outside, which is going to be the most expensive stud. We're putting them on here, you know, side to side. That way you don't end up with your rotor turned a little bit and you don't warp your rotor. So you try to go from side to side when you start. We're installing our strongest material here, the 300M. You're gonna on the last little part when you're pushing them all the way down, you're gonna make sure that they're seated into the rotor. Sometimes you gotta press real hard, sometimes you don't, but you wanna make sure that they all look the same when you get done. And make sure that your rotor's all good and tight, and you should be good to go. That's your end product right there. Here I'm going to be installing the hub back on, which when I install the hub, I like to grease the axle and the hub. So I'm going to grease that all up real quick. And those splines, just take your little grease, rub it around in there. You're gonna stick your hub on here just like this. You're gonna wiggle your axle a little bit, and there it is. You're gonna make sure you got both your washers. Slide that up on there. Your axle nut. Start that by hand. You're gonna take your 27mm on your impact, and tighten that up. Make sure you're lined up. And you make sure you don't forget to put your cotter pin in there. Don't put it in backwards. Bend that back over. And then you're gonna put your caliper back on. Slide it down on there. You're gonna Loctite these two bolts with some blue Loctite. Take and start those by hand. And you'll take your 15mm socket here. Tighten those back up. And there's your hub installation. Now you're gonna go ahead and throw your tire back on. We like to put the wheel back on. That way, if it does happen to fall off the jack, it will damage less. Start them all by hand. The last step is to drop your jack, get it sitting back on the ground, and use blocks, get the blocks out of the way, and go enjoy some good riding. You're gonna stick your hub on here just like this. You're gonna wiggle your axle a little bit, and there it is. You're gonna make sure you got both your washers. Slide that up on there. Your axle nut. Start that by hand. You're gonna take your 27 millimeter on your impact, tighten that up. Make sure you're lined up. And you make sure you don't forget to put your cotter pin in there. Don't put it in backwards. Bend that back over.